great. Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first ever Zenpack webinar. My name is Nate Jiang. I am the brand strategist here at Zenpack, and joining me today is our co-founder and design director, Chao.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. And, today we are going to be talking about a topic that is pretty near and dear to our hearts. We've done a lot of work on it. A lot of our clients ask about this, and I think given the times, it's just a very trending topic right now, and that is influencer packaging. You might know them as PR kits, media kits, promo boxes, but Leo, I'm going to let you take this one. And what is an influencer box or influencer packaging, and why does it matter, and why should we be doing it?
Yeah, it's definitely a very trendy topic. Like you mentioned, there's different names that'll be throwing around, and I think a lot of people start to utilize this program to really kick off their new products and services. It's really been there for a while. I think the concept-wise, we're sending or creating a very specialized, very curated boxes to present your product, and you're sending them to very important people, and hopefully in mind that could help you to really drive the promotion of your new products and services. So the idea has been there for a while. It's just that with the influencers marketing coming in, I think the solutions now becoming slightly different, where you need to really focus on their audience as well, instead of just making something pretty.
Oh, well, that's really interesting, because I mean, like, we always hear about, for like a business or a product or, a brand, know your audience, right? But in this case, you need to almost know your audience's audience.
Exactly. It's, when you locate these influencers, one of the criteria, I guess, for any company is really look for their audience and see if they're the right people, right, for your new products. So not only that you have to create your specialized influencer box to the influencers, obviously, but you also have to look at who their followers are, and really tailor that experience for that particular audience. We usually see that, when you consider that more in detail, you get a much better impact and traffic, or whatever the goal that you try to achieve, when you plan ahead in that direction.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand you have some examples too that we can share, just to really illustrate, how different influencer packaging is from not only traditional retail, but even traditional e-commerce and fulfillment.
Yeah. So we have two examples today. I want to quickly show you guys as a opening to get us quickly into, I think, what is it that exactly we're talking about. So we have a box here. This is actually we created for Google and YouTube a while back. This is actually a program they started when they launched their first YouTube music platform, and the box was to create it and send out to the different channel owners, so that they could have a kind of an interesting startup or kickstart of the new programs. So the box is just black, really, on the looking at it, but if you touch it, it actually has a very special soft touch texture to it.
Well, that's cool. I mean, well, like Google and like YouTube, I mean, they don't even they didn't even have like a physical product, right?
Exactly. So this is one of the things that I think some people might have missed, is that you don't really have to have a product really to utilize this program. It could be it could be this kind of platform initiating, and an influencer box can still be very useful. And like the example here, kind of walk through a little bit. So it has a very interesting latch here. When you first open it, will come with the their branded color. Interesting messages.
So they have a custom message on the inside.
Yeah, quite simple, but the message is I think very clearly communicated. And then you have this beautiful sleeve here, and then you are welcome with this little gift that when they first come out with the Home Mini, this was a gift that they were sending out to different channel owners. And I think I want to show you guys this actually. What's special about this little thing?
Oh, yeah, so we have the insert.
Right, but included is actually a card that's made out of paper, but it's in the form of a vinyl disc, obviously, and then obviously to the theme, and then you can. I don't know if you guys can pick up that interesting reflection there.
Oh yeah, they definitely have the texture of the
Yeah.
the ridges of
So,
vinyl on that.
Yeah, this one has a very interesting UV finish on top of it, and that really mimics almost the feel and the touch of a vinyl disc. And this is really just to showcase, like this box is specially made for the channel orders. So that's that one. I have another one I want to show you guys.
That's a great example.
So just so I don't miss anything. So this is actually what we call a rigid box. It's made with a gray board inside, much like your iPhone or any premium electronic boxes, but it does have a interesting kind of slanted opening. Again, something very common that you can utilize for your premium influencer boxes.
Yeah, but the detail, I mean, definitely sets it apart from the what you would traditionally see.
And a lot of these details were it's not that they come in with like, hey, this is exactly what I want. It's really through like discussions between our team and their design team, and a lot of decisions made exchanging materials, swatch books, and all that. And so that was quite a process.
Yeah. Definitely really cool. And what do we have here?
Well, we have our Crown Fair box I want to share with you guys. This is a shipper box. So this is something that you will receive. If I'm an influencer today, I'll probably be getting this with some label on top. But after I got this, I'll open it. Immediately, I'll be welcomed with this beautiful branded mint green color. And a little message here says your ritual starts here. Very profound. I think the really fitting for their brand that have a really nice clean estate here.
Yeah.
And then I'll take these out. And you have this beautiful wrapped box. It's also made in rigid board. And let me take these out right now.
Wow, that is a really cool pattern.
Yeah. And obviously, Crown Fair's team did a really, really nice job designing the pattern and consider all the finishes, even the sticker. I know it's a little hard to catch that, but everything is really on brand, So definitely a very special experience when you first open the box.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the goodies right here. Again, made out of the rigid board material that we're talking about. Again, very common that being utilized for a lot of premium boxes. It's wrapped with a really nice paper and then a very interesting finish on top that's slightly embossed. Let's open this up.
Yeah, well, a lot of cool details.
So actually, let me show you this. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's a magnet closure here. And then immediately you're welcome with this more premium sort of opening. And once you open it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you immediately know that this is not your regular retail experience.
And then again, a very simple message says, take your time. There's a lot of estate. I know a lot of people are, graphic wise, want to kind of fill the space, but Crown Fair's team really looking to, I think, how to deliver the message rather than just filling the space. And take your time, definitely one of their core messages, and especially when they introduce their product. So they have a interesting array of hair products, combs, brushes, and a hair oil. And their whole thing is about really trying to ask people to look a little deeper into their rituals and like really taking your time to take care of your hair. So that's one of the main like theme, right? So that's a message that you see.
Well, I think it's incredibly interesting too. I mean, you get that amazing contrast with what you have on the inner lid, and then down to even like what's showcasing the product versus what you're seeing on the outside.
So branding colors all the way through, and really creating a curated space, almost like a museum piece, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like, hey, here's our new products.
Definitely an artful showcase.
Yeah. So they're brush, comb, and oil. what I want to talk about is this actual little hourglass here.
Mhm.
This is actually not their product, but it's kind of a little gift that they sent out to their influencers.
Oh, okay.
We see a lot of times, companies just kind of like doesn't really know what to do and just buy some random swags, right?
Mhm.
In this case, they decide to use our class. That's really fitting for their brand.
Oh, I
Right? It
gotcha.
becomes almost a tool. So although it's really not part of the product line, it really
Oh,
communicates
so
that.
not all of this is on their traditional retail setup.
Well, everything except this,
Gotcha.
right? And these whole set is still you're able to purchase them actually afterwards. So it's not only an influencer box, but afterwards it becomes a product line for the
Oh, so they were able to extend the
yes,
usage
exactly.
of this
Yeah,
into their
yeah.
regular fulfillment stream.
Again, so that's a pretty interesting strategy. I'll say, something to think about as well. That when I think their influencer receiving the box, just much like what I did here, really to showcase what's inside, and that really, I think, created that first moment, right? So even though that you don't have the product yet,
Mhm.
you kind of get a little glimpse, or a sneak peek into what's going on and what's
Well,
the
yeah.
feel of their brand.
Well, it definitely does a good job of conveying that. I
Yeah,
mean, like right away upon opening this, this isn't going to be your typical
exactly.
product box.
Right. And by extending that to a product line, I think it's a very smart choice. Um, okay, yeah, and that two examples I think really showcase like the YouTube one is really not a product; it's more of a service, right? And
Mhm.
where Crown Fair is really a D2C product,
Yeah.
where slightly more traditional, use of an influencer program. But both are legit and both have very good success into creating them.
Well, two very cool experiences, Leo. We went over a lot of details in both of those boxes,
Yeah.
from material finish all the way down to what the actual experience is like. Like, is there any? I guess when we think about influencer packaging, like what are some of the most important factors that we have to consider?
Yeah. So um, the program starts with a certain goal, right? So um, that part is absolutely needed when you um, um, really to think about what exactly is the experience that you're trying to achieve.
Hmm.
And because it is a special box, so that becomes almost the most important thing, is thinking about that experience and what exactly are the messages you're trying to convey. So I'll rate that as a top of the thing. So
Hmm.
regular packaging, you need to consider a lot of different things, right? Like assembly, protection of the box, costs, a lot of that different. For influencer program though, you do want to put that experience on top because that's really why you start the whole thing, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And um, second thing is really try to um, think about if you can create a more personal touch.
Hmm.
And also, obviously, if you're shipping a lot of different, depending on what the product, you want to make sure, obviously, things arrive safely. So still basic things, but you do want to consider these three aspects when you first started the program.
Gotcha. I mean, like that definitely sets it apart, right, from like what you would typically see on like a shelf, right, or get in like an Amazon box.
Exactly. So the criteria is quite different, but although a lot of these can be translated, I think, into regular packaging, but I think the priority is quite different.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So like step by step, then what's the development process look like for creating an influencer box?
Yeah. And like I mentioned, I think for this one, the goals is really quite important when you first set out to do it. I know everyone tried to jump into the program and see if they can get, something out of that.
Hmm.
But I will highly suggest that, you think about what exactly is that you're trying to achieve. So for example, for the YouTube one, it's really not to drive any sales, but really to promote the services.
Hmm.
So exposure is the goal, right?
Gotcha.
And same as the Quantum Fair one, exposure definitely be in, but there's definitely, there's a sales or number that they're trying to reach, right?
Hmm.
So you do have to consider that. And do think about that, set a goal, and then think about how to measure that.
Well, that makes total sense. I mean, like this kind of must fit in with your overall marketing strategy, right, and
Exactly.
implementation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And second thing is really thinking about concept, and it really goes back to, I think, that experience part that I was talking about. So
Mhm.
we know that you have a goal, and then think about how to achieve that.
Mhm.
And usually is by designing a very interesting, unique experience. So do think about that concept and have a really interesting, I guess, way to communicate that message. I think is a very, very important. Sometimes is asking more interactions. So sometimes the gift can create, if you get them something interesting they can play around with, create more contents even. That
Mhm.
could be an interesting way to extend that influencer program as
Right.
well.
Well, I mean, I think that also goes back to what you were saying earlier too about like knowing your influencer and their audience.
Exactly. That's yeah. So if they're really active and if into sports or something like that, obviously you want to create something more vibrant and interesting. If it's something more, like a hair product,
Mhm.
probably not something that they require a lot of movements, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, how do you go about like planning for this?
So the third part is, after you have your goals, your design, now getting something, more feasible, right? What do we have to do to make it really, to actually make it feasible?
Mhm.
So two things really: budget, definitely something that I have to consider. So after all that, do have a considered, what exactly is the spending that you need on this one, and do consider that in reference with the quantity that you're
Mhm.
trying to achieve. So when you set out to do the program, you probably know how many influencers that you're trying to send out to, right?
Mhm.
So that with the budget need to be considered together. Now, that has a lot to do, again, goes back to the goals. So if you're trying to impress a group of people, very specific ones, maybe you don't need to reach a lot of the audience. Maybe like, 5 celebrities will do the job, right? So you really need five,
Yeah.
but probably very expensive 5 boxes. But do think about that. So how much time you need, how much budget you need, and really how many boxes that you're trying to make.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've gotten that planning part out of the way and we have our strategy set.
Yeah.
Now what?
So you need a good partner, right? So I'm we're assuming that not every company has a very in-depth packaging team that can really help
Mhm.
in that regard. So do find a good partner to build it, good packaging structure, and also branding. I mean, graphic design. Um, both of these are extension of that experience that we're talking about. So you do need to consider all that. Now, sometimes when you ship more fragile items, that's especially important to have a really good structural engineering team to look at
Mhm.
the boxes you're sending to. A lot of times, we've encountered a lot of retail clients where they don't have a lot of experience shipping products directly
Mhm.
to the audience. So that might be something that we need to consider when you actually find out or find a good partner to collaborate with, that they do have the experience to create something that can be shipped directly to the consumer.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like you just went over like a ton of those fine details and things like that. I mean, it'd
Yeah,
be a shame if the way that it's getting to the client or the
exactly.
customer, right? Like
Yeah,
doesn't, it ends up being something completely
that's
different.
that's definitely a minus on your influencer part.
Oh,
Imagine your influencer open the box and find something damaged, right?
yeah.
So you do want to consider
Hmm.
that.
Definitely
Yeah,
want it to arrive, the way that you intend.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So we've gone over the timeline. And speaking of timelines, before we hop into our next topic, I'd like to invite all of our audience members to go ahead and type in any questions that they might have. We'll try and get to everything, as quickly as we can. And we'll be doing that near the end of our segment. Um, yeah,
yeah,
again, just type it directly to chat into the chat, and they'll get passed on to us, and we'll have a Q&A section at the end.
yeah. Fire away.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit on the timeline
Yeah.
aspect as well. So with all that, they're usually coming in last minute. Like that's just the nature, I think, of these type of marketing programs.
Hmm.
But you do want to give yourself a good 6 weeks time,
Oh yeah.
especially if you want to look for something a little more customized. We've done these in 4 weeks before, but really you don't have a lot of choices to
Leo, I
really.
don't think we want to tell people that we can do it faster.
Yeah, I know, but that's We don't recommend it.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks is good.
Right.
Better 8 if you have the time. And also, if you have something really interesting and bold that you
Mhm.
want to achieve, really honestly, just leave yourself more time and start chatting with one of the companies that can help you with this.
Makes
Early.
total sense. Build that into the planning stage.
Yeah.
I think it'll pay many, many dividends as the project goes on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that, start to finish, let's say 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8.
Yeah.
Let's break down that timeline. What's the time needed for production? Like we have a concept already, and then
Yeah.
we go into production.
Right. So different clients coming in with different stages in their programs. So sometimes they'll have a really developed idea.
Hmm.
Obviously, that will help the time. Um, but essentially, you want to leave about 2 to 3 weeks for concept and sampling,
Hmm.
and then another 2 to 3 weeks for production. And that's kind of how the 6 weeks come about. When you have something special though, like right, like you want something like very interesting, like handle or something like that, you want to leave another 2 weeks or so if you have something special in mind
And we're
that you want to
talking
achieve.
about those kind of like custom elements, right? Those things
Exactly.
that those additions that are not only aesthetic but could be functional, could be
Right.
um
Or like a special swag that you want to include even.
oh yeah, we got to
So
build in time for that.
right.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So that's kind of usually a timeline for that.
Very cool. Like, okay, I think we got to get down to some of this kind of detail too.
Yeah.
How much does this usually run?
No, yeah, it's a very, very common and a lot of time we get asked that. So obviously it will vary quite wide depending on what you want to do.
Hmm.
But as a ballpark range, you want to leave probably around $25 to 50 per box. Now
Hmm.
that has to do with the quantity though, right? Too. So in general though, I'll say the program doesn't really matter how many boxes you're making. You want to leave around 5 to 10K at least.
Hmm.
But again, that really depends on kind of how bold and how interesting, how special that you want to make these boxes.
Hmm.
So take that as a general rule, and just that if it doesn't matter. So there's always going to be an initial cost for like toolings and all that, right? So 5,000 probably covered some of those things. But if you want anything more special, things will add up. So if I try to just recommend someone, that'll be the number that I'll give to people.
Oh, I think that's a good starting point. I
Yeah.
mean, again, that ties back into your planning and what you're trying to achieve, right?
Right.
Uh,
So yeah.
and I guess speaking of that too, like, how do we know if it's working? How do we measure the success of something like an influencer box?
Yeah. And it really goes back to, I think, the first thing I was mentioning about setting out goals. So um, a lot of time these programs just start as a chat internally. Like say, hey, it'll be great if we can send something to these people, right?
Yeah.
So you don't really think about what exactly you're trying to achieve. So that's what I mentioned earlier. That first thing, think about your goals, because otherwise you can't really measure your success. Like, how do we know the investment is good, right?
Mhm.
So do think about that and think about like how to track those. It's very important. So when we send someone a 100 different influencers, we have a goal of reaching this many people, and you track that.
Mhm.
Now it's not just a wishful thinking that like something will blow up, something like that. No, you go back and you track every followers and make sure that your investment is actually accounted for.
Gotcha.
And I think that's very important to really sustain it, because in the end, someone will ask, right? Like, well, we just spend 10K. What exactly do we get?
Yeah, that's
And
a
then
great question to be asking.
right, and then you have to say, well, we got 10,000 followers. And it's like, okay, well, great. That's a lot cheaper than buying clicks.
Yeah.
And you probably get 10,000 people that really like you and really, you're sort of really believe in your brand already. So that's a difference that these programs can make. But like I said, do measure it and find that out before it actually the whole thing starts.
Again, going back to that planning and strategy
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense.
So,
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit on influencer packaging. How the details and the experience really make it different from retail and e-commerce. Um, what are some of the upcoming trends? What's next?
Mm,
We're seeing, you shared the YouTube example, you shared Crown Affair.
yeah.
Um, what else is going to be coming? Because I mean, like, things got to keep progressing, right?
Yeah, let me see if I can find something here. Let's get these going. This one it's a little big, but I think this one might be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this one.
So first off, I think I think everyone's trying to, these programs are meant to be creating like a buzz, right?
Mhm.
So we've been thinking about, and people be thinking about utilizing different things to create that special moment. And this one, although I think it's maybe a little more than a influencer box, but it definitely has an interesting component inside. I kind of want to show you guys.
All right.
So
Why don't you how
yeah,
about I hold it
sure.
and you
Yeah.
take us through what that experience is
Yeah.
like.
So this one actually we created for T3, which are they make awesome dryers. When they're doing very well here in America, but when they first were wanting to enter the European markets, they don't have a full staff, obviously, in that region. So they
Mhm.
need to create a box that can actually do a little bit of that. So
Oh, wow.
explaining the brand. Now, how do we do that though? Like with the box, right?
Wow. So this was like their like brand ambassador going out
kind
there.
of, yeah. So again, this is the original box that we've seen from time to time now, but this size is quite big. But interesting part, I guess, when you open it,
Oh.
actually has a little video component. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Hope that's coming across on video.
Yeah.
We have another video.
There you go. But that's a video screen component that's embedded into the lid. And this immediately can be utilized in like a retail store. So you can actually leave it on and play. Or act like a little, salesperson almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like sending their own custom shelf.
Yeah.
And I love the detailing right here. I mean, look at that. The color just matches up perfectly with the video screen.
So a lot of these details were considered when we first designed the entire box. But this component, though, was actually something we, I guess, encountered later on. So in the beginning, we were just making the box to really house the products. It's really at the later stage where we feel like, hey, you know what? What if we embedded this component here? Would that be a even more memorable experience and maybe more useful even, right? For their use. So after that, you really get into, I think, some of those components inside. Got your
like the whole catalog.
Yeah, it's a full catalog, quite thick actually. So again, that gives, I think, people on the ground or the visitors a good amount of time to really realize the product lines. And the little USB here as well to same content as the brochures.
Oh wow, and this is like great framing right here.
Yeah, really creating the pedestal, right, for your messages.
And what did you say this one was again?
That's a USB drive for their contents as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
A digital copy. Yeah. And we go inside, you got these beautiful product boxes. And I kind of want to show you guys this one. It's a very interesting one. This box actually holds a towel and also some pin as gifts for this influencer box. And originally this was we call this a quick straw guide or like a little message card, but it slowly evolved into a box. Now actually holds the product and also the gift. So that becomes another very interesting aspect, I think, for the opening experience.
That's cool. And that integrates right here with all the other their actual products.
Yeah.
For sale.
You're really creating that presentation, right? That you look for.
Fantastic. Cool.
All right.
Yeah, that could be our theme song now.
Sure. There's other aspects of, I guess, technology. We've been seeing like some AR, VR stuff, but it's quite early. But we, Zenpack has been experimenting some of these things for influencer boxes. So there's a lot of new things coming in and out that we try to utilize. So it's always interesting to incorporate some of these new things that's happening.
Well, always cool to be blurring the lines between the physical and the digital realms.
Yeah.
Neat. Well, so we have an idea of kind of what's coming up next. I think now maybe a good time to open it up to some of our audience questions. I'm going to check the feed really quick and see what questions we have coming along. Just give me a second. Oh, I have to ask this one, Leo. We get this one just so much. Can I ship alcohol, Leo?
You can, not a not impossible.
Mhm.
Actually, quite a few of our clients ask us about it. Now, the only thing is you have to watch out for the policies and laws in
Oh
different
yeah.
states. So, in a few states, it's actually prohibited, so you can't really do that. But in the states that are allowed, you can definitely do so, but with the proper license.
Mhm.
So I will suggest that if you really need to and think about utilizing that, I will try to contain it in the regional aspect rather than like a national thing.
Gotcha. So like
Um,
really know the area's
yeah,
rules and regulations,
right.
right? Because lots of borders
Yeah, yeah,
across state lines that would definitely
definitely.
could
So
provide headaches, I
not
imagine.
impossible. Just be careful around the laws and
Hmm.
plan ahead. Ask the couriers if they can do that. I think then you'll be fine.
Oh, cool. Let me grab another one right here. Uh oh, this is okay, this one's kind of broad too. So what other industries do we see utilizing influencer boxes or influencer packaging?
Yeah,
I mean, you already gave us some cool examples, within traditional retailers,
yeah,
with consumer products, and also even some tech platforms.
yeah. Honestly, I don't see there's a clear boundary, like, who can or who cannot
Mm.
utilize it. It's really that if you have I think, a message or like a new product or services that you like to communicate, this program will be really nice fit. So you have some, well, there's this one actually. Um, we did this for Netflix a while back.
Oh,
Again, very interesting box.
oh man, I can
Um,
almost I can almost hear their theme song.
right.
Yeah. Boom.
So, they created this for their producers, actually, for the shows, and they created it for the season premiere a couple years back. Now, it's not really selling anything, right? It's not
Hmm.
like, hey, with this box, like how many people will sign up for the services. That's not the case. They're really just to try to celebrate, I think, the collaborations with them and the producers.
Hmm.
And this is really a way to show them like their core value almost rather than anything else.
Hmm.
And for this box, we've created something special on the UV side, actually. I don't know if you can see that, but there are actually two
Oh, it's
different
pretty nice
UVs
on
here.
camera.
Yeah. Again, we're trying to mimic that Netflix logo,
Hmm.
that different two-tone thing, and we really wanted people to hear the sound when they see it, and the colors as well. And has a very interesting acrylic top in their red colors.
Very cool. So this is
And
like you said, like this one's like kind of more of like a celebratory example.
exactly. So, like, what can Netflix send you? They're not like selling anything really,
Oh, that's a good point.
right? So what they do is actually, again, once I lift this box,
Looks like we have this clear acrylic lid.
right? So we have actually a Polaroid inside. That's the gift they send it to their producers. Um, the program was actually to have them receive the gift actually, and take more pictures and share it on the Instagram. So that becomes like, a mini like activity that they created between themselves and the influencer. I'm sorry, the producers. Eventually, I can become their influencers to a degree. And something notable for this one is also have a really interesting soft touch coating. Obviously the nice UV I talk about, and everything inside is actually with the same finishes. Even the accessory boxes are with a special
Oh
soft
yeah,
touch finish as well.
these definitely match.
Yeah,
Well, actually, we have a really interesting question that just came in too.
cool.
Speaking of these finishes,
Yeah,
can we speak to the some of the sustainability of not only like the materials, but maybe even like we talked earlier too about how Crown Affairs, influencer box ended up,
Yeah.
fitting really well into their e-commerce fulfillment.
Yeah. So even for the T3 box, for example, obviously the component has some electronic component inside, but everything inside that box is actually made with paper.
Mhm.
So obviously this has been a topic that we've been being asked for. And a couple of years back, we actually along the years we've been asked. I think a lot of clients ask us about, hey, do you guys do sustainable packaging? The answer is always yes. Depending on situations, we'll do the right thing, right? And now when we were asked that, my answer is, well, that's the only packaging we do. So
Well, I mean, like, it's definitely a core philosophy of us.
right. So it's really not just like, oh, can we do something more sustainable? It's really just the way that it's supposed to be carried out, I think. So the way we look at it is that obviously you want things to arrive safely. Nothing is more unsustainable if your product arrive broken, right? Because every effort that you put in is lost.
Right.
All the carbon that you put in is now just a waste.
Right. Well, and then you're spending even more sending it back.
Exactly. So we have to consider that first, right? So your goal and your ultimate function of the things you're doing still need to be achieved. But after that, we look at every bit of the detail and see if we can choose the right material, the right process, down to the paper, the glue, the way it's assembled, and the size, and everything really to consider if we can make it a little more sustainable.
Right.
So that's the aspect I'll take, is that yes, you do have to consider that, but I will say like it's more of an overall philosophy of ours rather than a project one.
Good point. Good point. And I think it also kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with when you're making your goals for your influencer box, right? Like you can plan to actually have that design or that concept, right? Like have a longer life than just that one influencer setting.
Definitely. So sometimes we'll create the box and thinking about, well, how do we make it more reusable, even something that people can keep around. Not only that it'll make it more sustainable in terms of it's now have a second life, but also your branding will stick around.
Oh yeah, right? Always a plus, right? When you invest that much and effort,
exponentially increase the impact that you're creating. So that's always a good thinking, that strategy as well, to create something that can be reused. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. I'm gonna check some of the other questions too.
See, we have new ones coming in.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is a good one. I'm going to sum up some of these into a single question. Okay, if we sell a single product and want to send an influencer a custom box to give them this really great experience, how would we suggest doing that when our customers won't receive the same packaging that the influencers are going to be pointing out?
It's a common theme, or I guess it's a lot of times, like, it's not everyone is like what they did, right? So sometimes the things you send to the influencers are entirely different experience wise,
right,
with the real product. Now it's a decision you have to make. First of all, is that I think it's important to think about if you want to in fact translate your influencer box to a product. It's a decision you can always make. Now, if that is in fact a good strategy for you in terms of your business, then talk to your partners when they design that. Make sure that at least the aspect of that can be translated into a regular packaging rather than just influencer packaging. Now, if it absolutely does not make sense, right? Because a lot of time when you send to the influencers something just like a full package, or everything's included,
right,
or like some special gift, then what I would do is really looking to some of the materials that you use on the influencer packaging, and then take out that sort of most pronounced or interesting aspect, and try to use that as a starting point for your regular packaging.
Oh, that's cool. So, that's kind of like good, like, product line development right there.
Yeah. So it's not, I think most people expect that they might not be getting the same thing as the influencers, but it's really nice they see something, they like, oh, I didn't know that I'm getting this too, or like, oh, I didn't know that, this aspect was kept for my experience. um so, like maybe you choose a gift that's actually, that's more affordable for
Hmm.
you to send out to your uh general consumers as well.
Yeah.
I know, like, another brand who will include like a little, like a pen, or like a like for different brands, they might have slightly smaller items,
Hmm.
or like, if your product line has something that's a little smaller and you send it out as a gift, maybe that's a time that you reuse into a regular packaging. So what I would suggest is really to find out what you can afford to give as that a little extra thing that you
Hmm.
can give to your regular customer as well.
Well, I really like looking at it that way of just, finding that element. Maybe it's not even a thing, but it could be like a finish, right? It could
Yeah,
also be a certain layout. Just that kind of I guess point of interest or point of uniqueness,
right.
right, in your influencer box, and then extending that
Yeah.
onto your consumer
So,
packaging.
for example, if Netflix in fact made a product after that box, right?
Hmm.
Think about utilizing soft touch, to extend that experience beyond your influencer box into your regular one.
Yeah.
Um,
Would definitely tie it all together. That's
yeah.
cool.
So you might not have the exactly same thing, but try to, gather and, pick up the essence from the influencer box and use them in your regular ones.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna try and I'm gonna read through some other questions really quick. Um, oh, this one's come up a few times, Leo. I only need 10 boxes. Is that too little?
Yeah. In short, no, nothing. No, it's not too little. We've made fewer than that before. Now, it really has to do with, again, going back to that goal. So, um, if I have 5 celebrities sign up for my influencer program, Brad Pitt or whoever, right? Um, I'm gonna make 5 boxes, awesome ones, just
Hmm.
tailored to them, so that I can get the most out of that, right?
Hmm.
And the budget I'm gonna spend on that 5 probably equals to the budget or the money I'm gonna spend on 100 boxes. But that's okay. I know I'm getting what I want out of that.
Yeah.
So there's no, unlike I think regular packaging manufacturings, you do have sometimes an MOQ.
Hmm.
For influencer programs, there's nothing like that. So the quantity should not stop you from thinking about, how to carry out your program. Uh, Going back to that goal, right? So what exactly you're
Oh
trying to
yeah.
achieve,
I mean, that makes
um,
total sense.
right?
Yeah.
But do know though, like I mentioned before, there's going to be a starting cost with any quantity.
Hmm.
So if you're making just one, you can still do it. It's just going to be very, very expensive one that
But very, very awesome.
right, right. So that give you the opportunity. So the fewer you make actually give you a little more opportunity to make them even more special.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's also a trade-off there that you can think about.
That's interesting. So yeah, definitely no minimum order quantity when it comes to influencer boxes. But again, have that goal in mind,
Yeah,
right? Make sure it lines up, make sure it matches up, and yeah, you're gonna get the bang for your
yeah. So
buck.
don't be shy to, if you have thinking about, it's a very few number for influencer programs. There's no, you don't worry about that.
Yeah, so long as you have that concept and that experience
Yeah,
designed out, planned out, and you want to execute on that.
yeah.
Let me get back to the question list, Leo. Uh, okay, let me sum up some of these
Yeah.
for you. Um, I guess in general, what are some of the common mistakes, Leo, that you see with influencer packaging?
Mm. Um, Couple of things. I think the top one, definitely time. So
Mm,
we've been hearing or getting a lot of requests coming in and say, hey, you know what, we have this beautiful, really bold, interesting idea, and they're oftentimes very interesting. But then they say, oh, we need to deliver in like 3 weeks time, and I'm like, man, like I really wish we can do that, but the time given, it's just not enough. So I think that's the first thing, is that, like anything else, really, like start early is definitely going to be better and serve you much better. In that, if you do have something that's really special, give yourself more time. And even as a regular program, give yourself 6 weeks time.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the first mistake I see quite a bit. Like people coming in with just very, very little time
Yeah.
and thinking that everything can be done um, in like a week or two. Simply doesn't
Well,
happen.
I think that just really is a good point actually for us to tie this back to what you had said earlier around like the most important factors when it comes to creating your influencer packaging.
Yeah.
And that is, planning, setting aside that time and the budget
Yeah.
to get, your concept executed.
Yeah.
Um,
There's probably a few other. So another thing probably would be like, um, there's some clients coming in and will say, hey, we want to do this program, but we don't really know what's inside yet. And
mm,
that sometimes really delays the process. So I will highly suggest when you come in, think about already what goes inside the box. And best yet, if you have physical samples of these,
mhm.
that will really help. The process that follows. Um, that's also something like getting actually physical things that you're actually
Oh yeah.
getting to
Yeah,
people.
getting your materials in
Yeah.
order, right?
Um, Other things will be like, some of them have a very specific material that they
Mhm.
have in mind. Um, you do need to again leave more time if you're looking for something very specific. Um, yeah, that's probably a few things that I noticed
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah, I think those are good things to be aware of.
Yeah.
We do have some more questions, Leo. However, we are running a little short on time.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we should leave our audience with when it comes to influencer packaging?
Yeah. Um, I think in general, I want to go back to I think that steps that we're mentioning. A lot of times these program starts in a very rapid way, and we all want to get on board and try to utilize the program. But setting out that goal, I think, is still very important, and really understanding what you're trying to achieve. So um, I will start a conversation there rather than anywhere else. Is that, hey, we can utilize this, but what are we really getting out of it?
Mhm.
Um, and really also the concept or the way or the message they're trying to deliver to people. I will say that's the takeaway here. If you ask me to summarize what's the most important message you want to give to people, I'll probably say that is, when you start a program, understand your goal, understanding or think about how do you want to deliver that message.
Yeah, both very great points.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's about all the time we have.
Cool.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and apologies if we didn't get to your questions. But if you want to follow up on those, you can reach us at www.zenpack.us. And one of us will definitely be getting back to you as quickly as we can. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for attending our very first Zenpack webinar. Again, this is Nate Jiang and our design director, Leo Chao. Very happy to have had you all in attendance today, and we look forward to the next episode of this webinar series, and we hope to see you all again soon. Until then, take care.
Thank you guys.